When Lisa Thompson visited her brother's military base, the soldiers thought it would be funny to let her hold a sniper rifle for photos. "Just pretend to aim," they laughed. But when she spotted a target 2,950 meters away and asked to take a shot, they agreed for the entertainment. What they didn't know was that Lisa held the world record for longest confirmed sniper kill under a different name. From which city around the world are you watching today? If this story moves you, please subscribe to Rising Life Stories to help us share more stories of hidden heroes. But Lisa Thompson wasn't just any record holder. She was Staff Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, the most lethal sniper in Marine Corps history. 3 years ago, she had vanished from active duty after a classified mission went wrong, taking on a new identity to protect national security. The 2,950-meter shot she was about to attempt wasn't just impressive. It was the exact distance of her most famous kill that had saved an entire platoon in Afghanistan. What the Marines at her brother's base didn't know was that Lisa Thompson was a carefully constructed cover identity. The real Elena Rodriguez had been declared KIA to protect her from enemy retaliation, but she was very much alive and about to remind everyone why she was called the Ghost by insurgents who feared her legendary accuracy. Her brother Mike was the only person who knew the truth about his sister's past, and he was about to watch her blow her own cover to save lives once again. The California sun beat down on Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton as Lisa Thompson walked through the main gate, her visitor's badge clearly marking her as a civilian. At 29, she looked like countless other military family members. Casual clothes, a warm smile, and the slightly overwhelmed expression of someone entering the organized chaos of an active military installation for the first time. Corporal Mike Rodriguez waited for her at the visitor center, his face lighting up when he saw his sister approaching. To everyone on base, Mike was just another Marine serving his second tour. What they didn't know was that his sister Lisa, visiting from Arizona, was actually the most decorated sniper in Marine Corps history, living under a new identity that had been carefully constructed by military intelligence. "Lisa," Mike called out, embracing her in a hug that was both genuine and part of their cover story. "I'm so glad you could finally visit. Wait until you see what we've been working on." Lisa smiled, playing her role perfectly. "I can't believe how big this place is. You Marines sure know how to make an impression." As they walked toward the training facilities, Mike pointed out various landmarks with the enthusiasm of a tour guide. But beneath his casual commentary, he was providing his sister with tactical information she might need: guard rotations, weapon storage locations, and the daily schedules that governed life on base. "So what exactly do you do here?" Lisa asked, though she already knew her brother's assignment better than most of his commanding officers. "I'm part of the Scout Sniper program," Mike replied with obvious pride. "We're training the next generation of precision marksmen. Today is actually perfect timing. We're testing some new equipment that just arrived from the manufacturer." They approached a sprawling complex of shooting ranges that stretched toward the distant hills. The sound of gunfire echoed across the facility as Marines practiced with everything from pistols to heavy machine guns. But Lisa's attention was immediately drawn to the long-range precision shooting area, where several Marines were working with high-end sniper rifles. Staff Sergeant James Parker was conducting a training session with 4 junior Marines, explaining the complexities of long-range shooting to students who hung on his every word. At 35, Parker was a veteran instructor with 2 combat tours and a reputation for being able to hit targets that other shooters couldn't even see. "Distance, wind, temperature, humidity, atmospheric pressure," Parker was saying as Mike and Lisa approached. "Every one of these factors affects your shot when you're reaching out beyond 1,000 meters. Miss one calculation, and you miss your target." Mike interrupted politely. "Sergeant Parker, I'd like you to meet my sister Lisa. She's visiting from Arizona and wanted to see what we do here." Parker turned and assessed Lisa with the quick professional evaluation that all military personnel gave to civilians entering their workspace. What he saw was the attractive woman in jeans and a t-shirt who looked completely out of place among the serious business of military marksmanship training. "Nice to meet you, ma'am," Parker said courteously. Your brothers told us a lot about you. Are you interested in firearms at all?" Lisa shrugged with carefully practiced casualness. "Not really. I mean, I've never even held a real gun before. This is all pretty intimidating." The junior Marines smiled at her admission, remembering their own first encounters with military-grade weapons. To them, she represented the civilian world they were trained to protect, well-meaning but naive about the complexities of their profession. "Would you like to see one of our rifles?" Parker offered. "We've got some of the most advanced sniper systems in the world here, just for educational purposes, of course." Lisa looked to Mike, who nodded encouragingly. "That would be interesting, I guess." Parker led them to a nearby table where several sniper rifles were displayed, each representing hundreds of thousands of dollars in advanced military technology. The centerpiece was a custom-built .338 Lapua Magnum rifle equipped with the latest optical and ballistic computer systems. "This beauty can reach out to 1,500 meters accurately in the right hands," Parker explained, lifting the rifle with obvious respect. "It weighs about 15 pounds fully loaded, so it's not exactly something you'd want to carry around all day." Lisa approached the weapon with apparent hesitation, her eyes wide with what appeared to be genuine amazement at the complexity of the system. Can I hold it?" she asked. "I mean, is that allowed?" Parker exchanged a glance with Mike, who nodded. "Sure, but be careful. This rifle costs more than most people's cars." Lisa took the rifle from Parker with what appeared to be nervous inexperience, holding it awkwardly as if she was afraid it might explode in her hands. The junior Marines watched with amusement as she struggled to find a comfortable grip on the weapon. "Wow, this is really heavy," she said, letting the rifle wobble slightly in her arms. "How do you even aim something like this?" Parker moved behind her, positioning her hands properly on the stock and grip. "Like this. The key is to let the rifle rest naturally in your shoulder pocket. Don't fight the weight, work with it." As Lisa adjusted her grip under Parker's guidance, her hands automatically found the correct positions with a precision that would have surprised him if he'd been paying closer attention. But to Parker and the watching Marines, she just looked like a civilian trying to follow instructions. "There's a scope on top," Lisa observed, peering through the optics with apparent wonder. "Everything looks so much closer." "That's a variable power scope," explained Lance Corporal Tony Vasquez, one of Parker's students. "It can magnify targets up to 25 times normal size. See that target way out there?" He pointed toward a distant hillside where barely visible targets were positioned at various ranges. Lisa squinted in the direction he was pointing. "I can barely see anything out there. How far away is that?" "The farthest targets are at 1,200 meters, Parker replied. "That's about 3/4 of a mile. Takes years of training to consistently hit targets at that range." Lisa adjusted the scope, and for just a moment, her movements showed the fluid expertise of someone who had spent countless hours behind precision optics. But the Marines were focused on explaining the basics and missed the subtle signs of her true experience. "The really amazing thing," said Private First Class Maria Santos, "is that Sergeant Parker once made a confirmed hit at 1,847 meters during his deployment in Afghanistan. That's almost impossible for most shooters." Parker nodded modestly. "Lucky shot, favorable conditions. Most engagements happen at much shorter ranges." Lisa looked up from the scope with an expression of awe. 1,847 meters? That's incredible. What's the longest shot anyone has ever made? "Current record is held by a Canadian sniper," Parker replied, 3,540 meters in Iraq. But that was basically a miracle shot. Perfect conditions, perfect equipment, perfect execution. "Has anyone in the Marines ever come close to that?" Parker's expression grew more serious. "There was a Marine sniper a few years back, Elena Rodriguez. They called her the Ghost. She had the Marine Corps record at 2,950 meters, but she was killed in action 3 years ago during a classified operation." Lisa's grip on the rifle tightened almost imperceptibly, but she kept her expression neutral. 2,950 meters? That's almost 2 miles. "Elena Rodriguez was a legend," Mike said, his voice carrying genuine emotion. "She saved a lot of lives with shots that nobody else could make." Lisa looked through the scope again, scanning the distant targets with movements that were becoming more natural and confident. Is there a target out there at that distance? 2,950 meters? Parker laughed. Ma'am, we don't even have targets that far out. The farthest range we use for training is 1,200 meters, and that's challenging enough for our best shooters. But hypothetically, Lisa pressed, if there was a target at 2,950 meters, would this rifle be capable of reaching it? Theoretically, yes, Parker admitted. The .338 Lapua Magnum has the ballistic performance for that range, but hitting a target at that distance would require perfect conditions and a shooter with extraordinary skill. Lisa was quiet for a moment, studying the distant hills through the scope. What about that radio tower on the far ridge? How far is that? Parker squinted toward where she was pointing. That's way beyond our normal training area, probably, I'd guess around 2,800 to 3,000 meters. Could someone hit that with this rifle? Hit a radio tower at 3 kilometers? Parker shook his head. Even if someone had the skill, we don't allow live fire at those ranges. Too many safety and legal issues. Lisa lowered the rifle and looked at Parker with what seemed like innocent curiosity. But what if it was an emergency? What if lives depended on making a shot like that? Parker's expression grew more serious. In a combat situation, with the right shooter and the right conditions, it might be possible. But we're talking about a 1 in a million shot. The margin for error at that distance is basically zero. Lisa handed the rifle back to Parker, but her eyes remained focused on the distant ridge. I know this sounds crazy, but what if I wanted to try taking a shot, just to see what it feels like? The silence that followed her question was profound. Parker stared at her as if she had just suggested she could fly to the moon. The junior Marines exchanged glances that clearly conveyed their amazement at the civilian woman's audacity. Ma'am, Parker said carefully, this isn't a video game. These are precision weapons that require extensive training to use safely and effectively. Even our most experienced Marines miss targets at 1,200 meters more often than they hit them. I understand, Lisa replied. But couldn't I just try the closer targets? Maybe 500 meters or something? Lance Corporal Vasquez couldn't suppress a small chuckle. Ma'am, most people can't even see a target clearly at 500 meters, let alone hit it. Lisa looked disappointed but not defeated. What about that radio tower you mentioned? If someone could hit that, it would be pretty impressive, right? Parker's patience was beginning to wear thin. Ma'am, that tower is nearly 3 kilometers away. It would be like trying to hit a pencil from the other side of town. Even if we had permission to fire in that direction, which we don't, it would be impossible. But what if it wasn't impossible? Lisa pressed. What if someone actually could make that shot? Mike stepped in, sensing that his sister was pushing too hard too fast. Lisa, maybe we should... No, it's okay, Lisa interrupted, looking directly at Parker. I'm just curious about the limits of human capability. If someone made a shot like that, what would it prove? Parker set down the rifle and faced Lisa directly. Ma'am, if someone could hit that radio tower from here, it would prove they were one of the most skilled marksmen in the world. We're talking about Elena Rodriguez's level of ability. The Marine who died? The Marine who was the best sniper in Corps history, Parker corrected. But that level of skill takes decades to develop. It's not something you can just pick up. Lisa was quiet for a moment, appearing to consider his words. Then she looked at Mike with an expression that seemed to be asking for permission. Mike understood immediately. The moment he had been dreading for 3 years had finally arrived. His sister was about to blow her carefully maintained cover, and there was nothing he could do to stop her. Sergeant Parker, Lisa said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, what if I told you I wanted to attempt that shot? The radio tower at 2,950 meters. Parker laughed outright. Ma'am, I'd say you've been watching too many movies. That shot is impossible for anyone except Elena Rodriguez, Lisa finished. The ghost, the Marine who officially died 3 years ago, but who is actually standing right in front of you. The words hit the group like a physical blow. Parker's laughter died immediately. The junior Marine stared at Lisa as if she had just claimed to be Superman. That's not funny, Parker said, his voice carrying a warning edge. Elena Rodriguez was a real person who died serving her country, making jokes about, "I'm not joking," Lisa interrupted, her entire demeanor changing. The nervous civilian facade fell away, replaced by the calm confidence of someone who had spent years in life and death situations. "My real name is Staff Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, and I'm about to show you why they called me the Ghost." The transformation was immediate and startling. Lisa's posture straightened, her movements became more precise, and her eyes took on the focused intensity of a trained killer. She reached for the rifle with movements that were now fluid and professional. "This is impossible," whispered Private Santos. "Elena Rodriguez is dead. There was a memorial service. Her name is on the wall." "Elena Rodriguez is dead," Lisa agreed, checking the rifle's action with expert efficiency. "But Lisa Thompson is very much alive. And right now, Lisa Thompson is going to make a shot that will remind everyone why Elena Rodriguez was the best sniper the Marines ever produced." Parker found his voice. "Even if you are who you claim to be, we can't authorize live fire at that distance. Safety protocols, regulations." "Sergeant Parker," Lisa said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making life and death decisions, "in about 30 seconds, you're going to see something that will convince you that some rules are meant to be broken." Lisa took position behind the rifle with movements that were poetry in motion. Every aspect of her body positioning, breathing, and weapon handling spoke of thousands of hours of training and real-world experience. The Marines watching her understood immediately that they were witnessing something extraordinary. "Wind speed?" she asked, her voice now completely professional. 3 to 5 knots from the southwest," Lance Corporal Vasquez replied automatically, still stunned by what he was witnessing. Lisa made rapid calculations in her head, adjusting the scope for distance, wind, and atmospheric conditions with the kind of intuitive expertise that couldn't be faked. Her breathing settled into the controlled rhythm that all snipers learned but few mastered. "Range to target, 2,950 meters, she announced. "Atmospheric conditions, favorable. Wind compensation, minimal." Parker stood frozen, watching a dead woman demonstrate skills that matched every legend he had ever heard about Elena Rodriguez. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No," Mike said quietly. "This is my sister." Lisa's breathing stopped at the natural respiratory pause. Her finger applied gradual pressure to the trigger with the kind of control that separated true experts from merely skilled shooters. The rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed across the training facility. For several seconds, silence. Then Lisa calmly announced, "Impact confirmed. Direct hit on radio tower at 2,950 meters." Parker grabbed binoculars and focused on the distant ridge. Where the radio tower had stood moments before, twisted metal confirmed what seemed impossible. Elena Rodriguez had just made the shot of her career. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lisa said, standing up from the rifle, "Elena Rodriguez sends her regards." The aftermath of Lisa's impossible shot was chaos. Marines came running from across the training facility, drawn by reports of the extraordinary marksmanship display. Within minutes, word had reached the base commander's office that someone had just made the longest confirmed shot in Marine Corps history. Colonel Patricia Hayes arrived at the range within 20 minutes, accompanied by military police and intelligence officers. What she found was a group of Marines standing in stunned silence around a woman who officially didn't exist. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," Colonel Hayes said, "you've caused quite a stir. Officially, you died 3 years ago." Lisa nodded. Officially, Elena Rodriguez completed her mission and was buried with full military honors. Lisa Thompson has been living quietly in Arizona, working as a veterinary technician. Until today, when circumstances required Elena Rodriguez to make one final shot. Colonel Hayes studied the woman who had just shattered multiple records and possibly blown a classified cover identity. "Why reveal yourself now?" Lisa looked toward the distant ridge where her bullet had found its target. "Because sometimes the dead need to remind the living that some skills never fade, and because my brother deserved to see his sister one more time." The investigation that followed confirmed what the Marines had witnessed. Elena Rodriguez was alive. Her death had been staged for operational security, and her shot at 2,950 meters had indeed set a new Marine Corps record. But more importantly, her demonstration had reminded everyone present that legends sometimes walk among us, hiding in plain sight until the moment when their extraordinary abilities are needed once again. 6 months later, Staff Sergeant Elena Rodriguez was officially resurrected and assigned to train the next generation of Marine snipers. Her civilian identity was retired, and she returned to the Corps that had shaped her into one of the deadliest marksmen in military history. The radio tower shot became part of Marine Corps legend, studied and analyzed by ballistics experts who still struggle to understand how such accuracy was possible at that range. At Rising Life Stories, we believe that some skills transcend death itself. Elena Rodriguez proved that expertise, once mastered, never truly disappears. It just waits for the right moment to reveal itself again. Where are you watching from today? If this story of hidden expertise and impossible shots inspired you, please subscribe, because there are legends living among us, and sometimes they're just waiting for the right moment to remind us of their greatness.